Hi there and welcome to this English composition class with me, Teacher Jason. I'm very happy to see you here today, and what we're going to be looking at is an article from the Harvard Business Review. Its title is there behind me, The Age of Outrage. Now, if for any reason you haven't read the article or you don't have a copy with you, there are some more copies here at the front, so come forward and help yourself. Anyone who is completely unprepared for what I'm going to do will still be able to follow along because we're going to read through it very slowly during today's class. Okay, now, by way of getting started, I'd like to gauge your reaction to this article with a simple show of hands. So, if you felt it was well written, hands up please. Okay, and if you felt it was well organized. Okay, and finally, was it comprehensible? That is, did you need to do any research on its key terms, or did the author provide enough information for you to understand them? Okay, so I'm seeing a very positive reaction to this article, which is good to see. And what we're going to do is go into the what and the why as we read through this article slowly together. What makes it a well-written, well-structured, comprehensible piece of writing? That's what we're interested in. Okay, now, before we come on to reading the article, we do need to understand its key terms. Fortunately, they're fairly few in number, and I've just chosen outrage and stakeholders. It's very important before we begin that we're all on the same page, as it were, in terms of our understanding of these terms, just how broad they might be. Now, in asking you in this first activity to give me some answers to my questions, you can, if you wish, draw your answers from the article itself, but we've kind of already read that. And you may have noticed that many of the examples and case studies are drawn from Western sources, and it would be great if we could come up with some Taiwanese examples of outrages. And stakeholders is a kind of universal term, but certainly with regards to the outrages. So let me read you these questions. You'll find them on the handout where the details of the activity are given in full. So I've put some causes here. So I've suggested that there are events that cause outrage. You might think of some examples here. And then there are issues. And I think this is interesting because cross-culturally, or moving from region to region, you'll find that there are different kinds of issues that cause outrage. There might be something in Taiwan that causes outrage. It wouldn't necessarily do so in another place, so you might wish to highlight that. And then lastly, of course, this is rather localized too, public figures who cause outrage. And are they doing it deliberately? And if so, why? What benefits do they derive from this? And then moving on to the stakeholders, you'll notice that the article doesn't really define stakeholders for you. I guess that's because leaders can be leaders of all kinds of different organizations, so it's left deliberately vague. Now, I've supplied one idea, which is customers. So it was a business, you have your customers. But can you think of any more that we might include? So those are the two questions. I'd ask you to get into groups of 3 or 4. Just pull your ideas. Don't come up with 3 or 4 separate sheets of paper. I wish you to pull your ideas because we're just going to have one person from the group present them. And I'm going to give you about 10 minutes to answer these questions, and then we'll have a listen to your responses, and then we'll move on to the article itself. And while you're working on this, I will just circulate around the classroom, listen in on what you're doing, and if you're stuck or you have questions of any kind, I'll be happy to assist. Are there any questions? Okay, let's begin. Okay, so that was a wonderfully productive discussion, and it was gratifying to see that you came up with some case studies that were drawn from life here in Taiwan. You've introduced me to a number of public figures I had no knowledge of, so you've left me with some homework to do there. Okay, let's move on now to reading the article itself, and the way we're going to do this is I'll have you guys read, and after every couple of paragraphs I'm going to stop and ask some questions, And also, I'll point out any features which I believe are worth noting. And I should also mention that if you have specific questions about a term, a phrase, or a cultural reference that you didn't fully understand, then just wait until the paragraph in which they feature has passed, and then you'll be able to put your question to me. Maybe a classmate will be able to supply an answer. But I should also note that I'm not going to be a substitute for a dictionary. I'm here to supplement rather than substitute for your having prepared adequately for these classes. So if that is understood, we can get started. Okay, we're ready to read. Let's begin with you, Jeffrey. Paragraph 1, please. Okay, excellent. And now you, Lorraine, paragraph 2. Very good. And now if I can just stop you there, I have my first question. So it would be, what is the purpose of paragraphs 1 and 2? What do they accomplish? Okay, over here. Absolutely, they're just to introduce the topic of the article. They do no more than that, but they do it very effectively. And one of the effective tactics that the author uses, I believe, is their topic sentences. Now, do you know anything that the topic sentences of paragraph 1 and 2 have in common? That's right. They're both extremely simple, right? And the writer, the author, is a professor, and he's writing in, a very well-regarded magazine with some intellectual heft, and yet they're quite prepared to use very simple sentences as part of their communication strategy. So I think there's the first of the general principles we can extract at this point, which is keep it simple at the beginning. It's so easy to forget. Don't open up with a sentence full of commas and semicolons. Okay, now we will actually, activity 2, be looking at this whole business of simplifying sentences, because it's quite an art and it's not something you may necessarily have devoted a lot of time to practicing. So I've got some prepared that I'm going to let you kind of have a competition, simplifying them, seeing who can come up with effective solutions. All right, so let's have the next paragraph, paragraph 3. Okay, Jennifer. Right, so let's stop here and ask ourselves, why is this paragraph inserted at this point? Why not just start with this? I'm Mr. So-and-so, here is my framework, it solves this problem, and then talk about the problem. Why do it this way round? All right, let's have your answer over here. Thank you. Okay, so if I understand you properly, what you're saying there is you feel that it's more engaging to just begin with the problem itself, rather than speaking about who you are as the author and the work you've been doing. Is that what you're suggesting? Okay, so yeah, I agree with you here that I think sometimes someone could be too ready to try and they think the value in the article is just their own contribution to a particular issue, whereas actually it can be better and make you look more objective if you kind of keep yourself back and introduce the article and then step in. You'll look more neutral, you'll look more objective. Okay, and then the next question here is, why does the author summarize the whole process, all 5 steps, before they begin describing each step in detail, given that they immediately go on to step 1 after this paragraph? Okay. All right, so what are we saying? Oh, so you use the word repeat there. Okay, so let's think about that for a second, because we're often kind of having it impressed upon us that to be repetitive is a negative thing. It's unwelcome. So why is this kind of repetition okay? I agree with you that it is a repetition, but it's being done consciously. I think the worst kind of repetition is if it's unconscious, if it's mindless, if we don't know that we're doing it. It has to be done consciously and for a reason. And here it's being done for a very good reason. As you said, it's being done to preview the material. So here I would say, another general rule, don't be afraid of previewing material. And this takes us into the issue of redundancy. Clearly, if we're only writing 400 words, one of those kinds of tasks that undergraduates often do, you're not going to have to preview what you're going to say. But for a longer piece like this, it is a good idea, okay? And it goes along, as I said, with this idea of redundancy. So what redundancy does is it means if someone misses this summary as they're passing through, then it won't matter because you're going to repeat it later on. But it just deals with the fact that you can't count on the reader engaging with your article in a perfectly quiet room under ideal circumstances. They may be coming back to it after a break, they may be in a noisy location, and you're just kind of dropping in these repetitions to act as a kind of aide-memoire to the reader, just to help them get through quite a long article without losing their thread. All right, excellent. So now let's go on to step 1, and this is turning down the temperature. All right, let's have some readers from over. Have you read yet? Okay, so someone who hasn't read. Okay, very good, very good. All right, the next one. All right, you know what, you're a literature student. Okay, brilliant. So you can tell everyone what catharsis is. Thank you. Perfect. So as Mary said, it's a term from Greek drama associated with watching tragedy, and it's a kind of emotional release that one experiences watching these tragic events unfold, and it's basically taken on a broader meaning to mean any kind of emotional release, such as one would associate with getting things off one's chest and venting one's anger. All right, I think we're just about ready to stop and take the first break, but when we come back, we're going to work on the first activity, and then we'll resume reading the article. All right, so you guys are going to take 15 minutes or so, and we'll meet back here. Thank you. Okay, I'm happy to see that you've all returned from your break. Hopefully you're all feeling refreshed, and we're going to begin the second hour with activity 2, and this will focus on simplifying sentences. You'll find the full details and the sentences I wish you to work with in the handout, so please refer to that now. I believe it's on page 4, okay? If you just want to find that first. When the pages stop rustling, I'll continue. Okay, so I have some notes up here on the board. Firstly, when simplifying sentences, using gerunds, or the use of gerunds can be a very effective method. A gerund is the present participle of a verb, and it functions like a noun. We often see it in signage. No sitting, no skateboarding, no eating. It will typically go at the start of a sentence, and it allows you to omit a determiner and also a preposition. So a very effective tactic for shortening sentences. Now there are 2 caveats when you're engaging in this simplifying process, and they are: don't write headlines. Okay, these are not titles. These are topic sentences. So fully grammatical English sentences are what we're looking for. And secondly, preserve the meaning in full. And I'm going to emphasize here, in full. So make sure when you're taking words out or rephrasing, that when you think you've got your final product, that you go back and check that everything in the original sentence is there in the shortened one. That is extremely important. Otherwise, we're not really accomplishing the task that I've set you. All right, are there any questions about this? Once again, as you work in your small groups, please form some different groups this time, meet some new classmates. I'm going to, once again, circulate, look at what you're doing, and if you have any questions of any kind, then just stop me and I'll assist. All right, 10 minutes, let's begin. Thank you. So that concludes my teaching demo. Apologies for having had to make a few edits. Despite my best efforts, a few students walked unannounced into the classroom during filming. Once again, thank you for watching.